my name is Chris Ng. I'm from Malaysia and currently working in Imaginary Fan Studio situated in Singapore. First of all, I would like to thanks to Ballistic Publishing as I have been selected as one of the cover artists in Exotic 7. As you all can see right here, this picture is the one that created by me and chosen as one of the cover of Exotic 7, and it is actually done for a card game entitled General's Order based in Singapore. Okay, so today I'm going to do a walkthrough of this image and hopefully it does give you some idea. Before I start my drawing, normally I'll do some researches about the background, as well as the character itself, and also the agriculture, in order to have a rough idea to design all the armors and stuff, and to help me get the right feeling for the illustrations. Okay, right now I'm going to switch to the software that I'm going to use for my sketches, and here is the new layer. Okay, right now I'm just copying from a final image, which is like it will end up like slightly different from the final, but well, I'm just showing the steps and to give you guys a rough idea about how I'm going to do next. Yeah. Okay. Let's drawing. Okay, for you guys that have problem with poses, you can always Google for poses that you want your subject matter to looks like, and that's how I always do when I have problems with pose and some very tricky anatomy that I don't really have confidence in, and just to make sure the outcome is fine. For the character, I'll still start from a very basic shape. Um, that's I still think that it's easier for me to start from basic shape than straight away draw on the go into details. Okay, sometimes I'll add some accessories like to show more of the anatomy that the hand is going from here you can see that the hand is going backwards through the accessories because of the shape. What I'm trying to say is sometimes the accessories you tend to add in is not only for the details, it somehow help to create some anatomy curve, and let you help to let the viewers have more understanding about your image. So right after you have the basic shape of your character, you can just add in the detail sketch and like everything inside. Until to a point that you think is good enough to help you save some time in colorings. Okay, I'm going to show you the original sketch. So from here you can see it's ready to color. For base color, I'll do it in Photoshop. and then proceed the rendering into Painter 9, and then back to Photoshop again. So this is the line layer and this is the flat colors layer. You just click the lock transparency and you can just start throwing all the colors that you want for the characters. Normally I'll use soft brush and yeah. As you all can see, I'm using a color wheel. You can just get any color wheel online. Just Google it. I think you can find a quite decent one. This is this color wheel is really helpful, and yep, I like it very much. Basically, I can just pick any colors from it. And if I need some other colors, then I can just mix it around while I'm doing coloring, and yeah, the result is satisfying. Okay, now I speed up the video process that I fill in the colors. You guys might notice that I actually fill in a darker value of the base colors uh, because that's my habit of painting. I always do from dark colors to light colors. In a way, I think it's easier for me. The values of the overall character is um, easier to pick up in that way. So, yeah. Until a point that is ready to proceed to background. Okay, I just fill in the flat colors background. Then I just throw in some of the colors of I had in mind that the background is actually like the highlands is with in between hills, and I use some texture brush to create all the bushes. And you can see from here, this is the brush setting. You can just create your own texture brush from the setting I'm showing here. Let's continue. Slowly build up the values and the lightings. The overall lighting is still quite dim as well. So right now I'm going to use a tool that I'm calling lighting effect, and it's using linear dodge brush on a brush mode, and these are the setting. And you just have to tick these three as well. And the effect of this brush is very interesting that I like it very much. And you can see here you can use this brush to create a very natural looking lighting. And because I'm using the blur brush on this setting, so I'll still need to touch up with the texture brush and here and there. And right now I'm going to add some more colors into the background for its too monotone over there, and I add in the grass. uh, Same as well, and try to highlight the details. Yeah, and use the lighting effect brush again to adjust some of the colors. I pick up some of the colors from the background to on the character, just to prevent it looks like it's out of place. You know, sometimes if you separate the character and the background, you have to bear in mind that the background colors will somehow reflect on the character. So what I'm doing here is just to pick some of the background colors into and blend into the character to make it more unified. And now I'm going to lighten up the value of the character to make it more like it's in the scene, that the lighting is coming from the back, and just roughly do the highlights to give me more idea and uh, to continue. The details and just roughly bring it in. Mm. The problem of the texture brush is sometimes you just over texture it and make it looks too much. So sometimes I'll use a smooth brush to blend it. Okay, until this point, I think I'll just open up the original background that I done. It's, yeah, compared to the one I just did. Yeah, you can see this is the original background, and yeah, it's actually quite rough. So I'm going to use this yeah, comparison. This is the previous. This is the one I just did. Mm, I'll proceed from here. And from here, you can see the characters' lines are still too dark. So you might just need to thin a bit. So I'll lock on the transparent and do some touch up colors for the character. And once it's done, I'm going to proceed to Painter for the rendering. I merge down the color layers and the lines layer and save it in PSD and open it up in Painter. Uh, it's always safer to save the file in PSD if you like to work on Painter, because I found that from my experience, I found that the riff file that Painter have always have problem in the Painter 9 which I'm using now. So I'll say that it's safer to work in PSD than with. Mm, okay, but now you can see I'm just doing all the rendering, and you can, if you haven't tried out Painter yet, you can just download the trial version and check it out. I think that the blending, the color blending in Painter is very unique. That it just saves you quite some quite some time for if you want to blend the colors. Where's the eyes? At this stage, all the lines are still, you can see from there, it's very rough. I'll just clean up the lines at the same time doing the rendering, since it's in one layer. And you can see the blending there is very smooth. The transition is very nice, which Photoshop doesn't really have this function. Right now I'm going to introduce a brush that is called FX, and select the glow one. And the effect is actually similar to the Photoshop linear dodge brush that I showed you just now. And I actually adjusted the brush in Photoshop based on this FX glow tool, and it's actually similar to the linear dodge, but it's kind of different in a way. So I use that to control the values and colors as well in here for a faster approach. Otherwise, I will just use digital watercolor, new simple water for the rest of the painting. And I did use sunburn and dodge too as well in Painter. So it doesn't really give me a huge difference when I'm switching to Photoshop. In Painter, they have preserve transparency as well, like its function like the Photoshop lock transparency layer. And you can see here I'm using it on and off just to clean up the lines and the rough lines. It's a very good tool that I use when dealing with different layers, character, and background. And yeah, sometimes I use the glow brush for adding the saturation of the colors. I think if you want to try it, you need some time to just explore, and once you get it, it's a very useful tool. I use it in creating a lot of magical effect like fire, lightning, magical aura, and the outcome is really outstanding. How I do the eyes of a girl. For this piece, I actually have this approach of making it looks more like a manga style face, and but I try to render it in a realistic way. So now I'm using the glow effect brush for the backlight. You can see the saturation is providing some of the highlights as well. zoom in for the eyes. The edge of the hair, face. The burn, use a burn tool for this. Cover up more of the lines. And the earrings. And I draw the hair one by one, but actually there's an easier way, and I'll do it in Photoshop later. Pick up a bit of the colors. Keep on rendering. Face is almost there. Get rid of some of the lines. Continue the hair. Right now, I'm doing the fur. It's not much of hard work, but it's the same method as the hair, which I'll use a brush to create the details later on in Photoshop. For Painter, the rendering is really good for a much smooth surface, but for creating the texture, I'll still go back to Photoshop for I have some brush preset that already there, so yeah, normally I'll switch back and forth. As you can see right now, I'm doing a detailed touch up for the hair, and I just pick up colors from everywhere else, and I'll pick up the colors from background as well for the greenish. As you can see from the hair, is a little bit of green. So I'll just continue the rendering. I think I'll need to go back to Photoshop to adjust a little bit of the face, just to make it looks more like the original illustration. Okay, save it now. Alright, here we are back in Photoshop, and now I'll click on the filter and liquify. Here we go to adjust the face, and you can see it's actually quite easy to use when you have not much time to redraw the face again, and it's really easy to use. And every time I'll use it when I don't really satisfy with the face or other parts that goes wrong. So okay, now use some brush preset that I already have in my tool preset. And touch up a little bit everywhere. And I'll just switch back and forth between Photoshop and Painter, just to get the benefit of each software. And it's like a changing of how you do work as well. Okay, now I'm going to import in the original work in progress. So you can see this one is more similar to the original illustration, and compared to the one I just did. So you can see the colors is still a bit too dark, and the color temperature is still too cool. Slowly adjust it and start to work on adjusting the skin tones and the colors. And eyeshadow, some parts of the face. Here, your fur. This is a texture brush as well. It's really good for drawing something like hair and fur. Okay, do the backlight, enhance it. Okay, this is the original again. Show it all over again. Some other important details. Okay, save. Okay, right now I think I'm going to okay, from just now, which I did, proceed until this level of finish for the character. And the background wise, right now I'm going to adjust the background using the blur, filter blur, Gaussian blur. And from here you can see that it's manually adjust the blur and just see whichever that you like. Okay, from here, this is the original, the final that I used for the background. Okay, you can see I actually touch out a little bit of the grass that looks unnatural. So right now I'm going to do a final touch up with different layers. Okay, this is for the enhanced backlight touch up as well. For the backlight, use a screen layer and I'm going to show you how. Just use a blur brush and set it to screen mode for layer. And there you go. You can see the bloom effect. Yes. Just to make it more dramatic for the backlight. Doesn't really need to be very neat, but just to be there. So I'm going to use overlay layer mode and do overall values of the image and pick a darker color. Just start to adjust all the values and also light colors for whatever part that you want to lighten up. Put more reflex on the metal. Okay, erase a bit if it's too much. So here you can see the difference. Okay, now the last part is the grass. So let me show how I do it. As you can see, it's actually quite rough for the grass. Yeah, just simply pick the color and randomly add in. So some of the highlights as well. Just few strokes. Then so okay. Use back the original one, and that's it for my walkthrough. Thanks for watching and see you next time.